Your initial take on the decision by the ANC's NEC to recall President Jacob Zuma?
Thanks. This shows how ANC is so weakened and without clear direction. More especially with regard to the issue of recalling Jacob Zuma. There are a lot of things that remained questionable, more especially with regard to the issue of the time frame as to when is the president going to respond to this message of him being recalled by the NEC. You see, the SG is very not clear to us. It doesn't commit anything. It just say, no, we expect that by tomorrow the president will have managed to respond.
But it begs the question of what is a recall? Is a recall not an execution itself? I mean, some would say there's no longer a discussion, but I was just as confused as you when they say there's a response to a recall. I don't think it's a conversation. Perhaps to welcome Oliver, your take on that specific point that Advocate Lepepe is talking about.
Very non-committal, very unspecific, and I think kudos to a lot of the journalists there who are pushing for certainty and clarity. It's disappointing for the Secretary General who sat in this 13-hour meeting to come and say, guys, I actually don't know, hey? It means that the meeting was less about a transitional process, but more about the immediate removal. And a lot of details, the devil is always in the detail, was left out. So a number of things that Ace Magashule does not know. He does not know, with certainty when Jacob Zuma is going to respond. Firstly, not giving a deadline is poor administration on part of the NEC, if that's indeed the case. So there's no deadline. So Jacob Zuma could decide to respond on Monday if he wishes so. And there's no clear step from the NEC as to if he doesn't respond by this time, this is the action we will take. And I think that was also incredibly disappointing on their part. But the second part here, and this is what he made clear, we're not removing Jacob Zuma because he did anything wrong. We're removing him because we feel it's time for him to go. And the transition must be smooth. Again, the NEC, it's either Jacob Zuma did something wrong or he didn't, and they need to be honest. I don't think the ANC will afford us any honesty at this time about it, because if they say Jacob Zuma did something wrong, they're implicating themselves in a lot of things.
Because they're saying they're going to invoke Section 12.2.21 of the Constitution. I mean, why take that route if somebody has done nothing wrong? That means it warrants Zuma's question of what have I done?
Yes,
so meaning, have
certainly...
they somehow succumbed to pressure? What does all of this mean if we have the SG saying there's nothing wrong that he has done, but we are recalling him?
No, certainly. And when Ismail started out his address, he said, for reasons relating to restoring the integrity of the organization. I mean, if you want to restore the integrity of the organization,
somebody has stripped it.
It means the integrity was eroded, right? Who eroded the integrity is certainly the person you're removing. So he certainly has done something wrong. So this meandering of the ANC at this moment is indicative of the chaos within the party. Chaos unrelated to Jacob Zuma, but chaos also related to Jacob Zuma. They'll certainly have a tough time come 2019. And I think the opposition will have a field day with the ANC on the campaign trail, specifically pointing to this instance. This could be seen, one, as incredibly duplicitous on part of the ANC by saying this guy is a problem, but he's not a problem. We still respect Al-Qaeda. We still love him. And another thing, Jacob Zuma says that he wants to stick around for BRICS Summit, the AU Summit, and he has to chair the SADC committee. It means that he does not think his successor is capable of chairing those summits, or has the know-how of going about it. It means he has no real confidence in the incoming leadership, which is worrying, because just before conference he said, any of these people here running for presidency, I've got full confidence in them all. The ANC is a walking contradiction. And this is really going to cost them a lot at the ballot box.
Advocate, let's talk about the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, ANC President. I mean, his performance throughout this so-called transition process, because he said he wanted to handle this with the utmost delicacy. But it seems that everything has gone south here. I mean, we've got a president who says, I'm going to respond. He has refused. So what were they really doing? If they said there were constructive conversations, they don't seem to have met each other or found each other.
The cause of that is it's how undecisive the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, he is. And also it shows how divided is the ANC. Number one, as a head of the ANC is supposed to take decisions as guided by the Constitution. You understand? But now also the ANC has put itself in disrepute. They have decided to recall Jacob Zuma without telling Jacob Zuma, what have you done wrong? Have you managed to put the organization in disrepute? You understand? Those are the things that the ANC has to respond. Now they have recalled Jacob Zuma, and also invoke a rule 12 of the ANC Constitution for what? You understand? So the question that Jacob Zuma, if I was Jacob Zuma, I was going to challenge this decision. If they push for his suspension within the organization, I was going to challenge it that there was no substantive fairness. The decision was procedurally unfair because I was supposed to be subjected to the disciplinary hearing up until they put the charges. The ANC, the same ANC, which is now led by Cyril Ramaphosa, when the opposition parties were passing a motion of no confidence against Jacob Zuma that he has violated the Constitution, more especially Section 89 of the Constitution, then they said, no, this man has never done anything wrong. That is why today the SG, the Secretary General of the ANC, said, no, Zuma is a disciplined cadre of the movement. He has been committed to the movement. We respect him. So they just took a decision, a confusing decision that they don't even know why they're supposed to recall him. And it's because of the pressure. Where is this pressure coming from? The ANC must tell us, because it's very undecisive. This undecisiveness, it shows how divided the ANC is up to so far. And as a result, the ANC is playing in the hands of the oppositions. And now the opposition must utilize this opportunity and make sure that they pressurize the speaker, and so that motion can come forward. That motion will have to come forth as early as possible.
Oliver, mine has always been that the NEC was split in the middle. That's post-Nasrec. All of us were saying the NEC was split in the middle. And then now, surprise, surprise, it seems there was, in as much as the SG went on to say it wasn't a unanimous decision, but he said it swayed with the majority. But is that now indicative of politicians being politicians, that they move where power moves, somehow?
No, majority is 44 votes, correct?
Yeah,
44 votes gives you a majority. If you had 44 votes, he would technically be correct to say it swayed with the majority, because that's where it is, right? But, you know, he was very non-committal with regards to that as well.
Numbers,
like, how deep was the split?
Yes.
You know, was it like a 60-40 split? Was it a 55-45 split? Because answering that question will give an indication just to how far along Jacob Zuma is still able to yield power in the NEC, maneuver certain people in a certain direction. So I think a lot of a lot of this confusion is, and I think some of the journalists were correct there. And I think it was Mahlatsi Gallants from News 24 who asked there, do you think we're heading into a constitutional crisis? Because the ruling party has given an instruction. The president is going to reject that instruction, as we know. Then what? Who does constitutional executive instructions come from? Because now you have a ruling party who's in defiance, or you have a president who's in defiance with his party, and there's a clear split between them. So it's going to cause, I think, a constitutional crisis for quite some time. Assuming they don't remove him in Parliament. There's no indication as to when they're going to call for the motion of no confidence, or if they're just going to wait for the one of the EFF. There's no indication on whether they'll go for specifically a motion of no confidence or a vote of impeachment.
He says they haven't discussed it. In all fairness, the SG said that hasn't come up in terms of
so
the
they'll
motion
have
of
to
no
have
confidence.
another 13-hour meeting to discuss the technicalities thereof, because this man is going to tell us that
and the implications
I don't want to
for
go.
the cabinet.
Right. So they still have long meetings to come forward, and those meetings may take a week, may take another 2 weeks, because as Pule Mawe has repeatedly told us, these people have other obligations. A lot of them are state officials who have to exercise state duties. So, when's the next time you're going to have another emergency NEC sitting to discuss the technicalities? And up until they've cleared out the technicalities, we still have Jacob Zuma as the president. So is this going to take 3 weeks? Is it going to take 4 weeks? That level of clarity was important, and we didn't get there.